Halloween is coming and I'm totally ready for some cool clay Halloween crafts. Today I'm showing you how to make this little guy. It's a little green monster donut glazed with some pistachio glaze and a tiny little chocolate accessoire. If you want to know how it's done, stay tuned. Start out by using a golf ball sized amount of foam clay and add a little dot of green acrylic paint to it. Add the acrylic paint slowly until you have reached the desired color. I am yielding for a light mint green color. Once you're satisfied with your color, form your clay into a ball, place it on an acrylic block, and then take a second acrylic block to squish it down. This will be the rough base shape of our donut. If you feel like it's not round enough to your liking, you can gently form it with your fingers. Now, I decided that mine needs a little bit more squishing. You decide how thick you want that disc to be. I wanted it to be a little bit on a slightly thinner side. With a ball styler tool, you can now divot the clay and shape out the hole. And this is a process that takes a little bit of patience and time. Take your time. You don't want to ruin your shape. So while you are largening the hole, make sure you don't press too hard on the edges of your donut. You can always remold it, but as it sets, it will become a bit harder. So be gentle with your clay. I will go ahead and squish it down for a final time to ensure a smooth surface. Here comes the fun part. We're going to mix some wood glue. It has to be the one that dries down translucent or transparent with some green color, the one we used prior. And what we're doing is basically creating a syrupy type of glaze. This is going to be the glaze we're going to spread on top of the donut. We're going to make it nice and drippy, syrupy, ooey gooey, good enough to eat. So how much should you take? I would say you need to eyeball it. It really depends on the wood glue you're working with. But as a general rule of thumb, I would use much more wood glue than paint, obviously, because the wood glue is the base material of the glaze. So if you don't have enough, it's not going to be as thick and syrupy. And also, I will add some, or I have added, as you've seen, some water to my mixture to make it more spreadable. You determine how spreadable or how thick you want that glaze. Obviously, the more water you have inside your glaze, the runnier it's going to be, and the harder it's going to control it, basically, because it will keep on running. And the more wood glue you have, the thicker it will be and harder to spread. So when you're making your glaze, aim for a syrupy, honey-like texture. I find that's the easiest to work with and also adds a lot of volume and body to your glaze, which will make it look also realistic. You can spread your glaze with either a silicone tip tool, or I would not recommend a toothpick because that will probably take you forever, but an alternative would be some brushes. The bristles can be flat, or you can also take painty ones. And by the way, if you hold your donut like this, you will help the glaze spread and drip just like real sugar glaze would drip. So you are working with gravity. It helps you pull that mixture down and give it a very natural looking effect. As you can see on the left side, there's a beautiful gloopy drop of glaze that is finding its way towards the center of the earth. But yeah, I think you get the picture. And try to keep the bubbles on a minimal side. You can pop them with either a toothpick or gently squish them down with your tool. Gently guide your glaze with your wet tool. Glaze follows glaze. It's just some type of physics I don't understand really, but it has to do with, I think, the surface density of it. But it will help just gently spread it without disturbing the pattern that you have created. Our tiny monster needs some eyes now. I'm taking again some foam clay and shaping them into two pieces, small round pieces. I'm actually careful to not make them look too perfect and too round. I kind of want my monster donut to have a slightly unhinged, terrified look on his face. So this is why I deliberately, quote unquote, misshape the eyes. I'm making them not perfect. I'm trying to give it a bit more like an oval, edgy type of shape. You can see here, they're not even exactly the same size, and I don't want them to be. I want him to look a bit crazy. So here you have some artistic liberty. You make your eyes however you love them to be. I'm taking an even smaller amount of foam clay to make the pupils. So I'm just starting some acrylic black marker, my Posca marker. They're very good, by the way. I can highly recommend them, to color this very minuscule amount of clay. They are perfect for this type of detailed working. They're much better, or I prefer them over using a tube acrylic paint, which is so much harder to control. So I'm just dotting on a few more dots until I have the desired color density that I'm yielding for. I was deciding that it doesn't have to be a perfect black. If you prefer your pupils, your monster's pupils actually, not your own obviously, but if you prefer the pupils on your monster to be much denser in color, you might consider maybe adding some black paint with a toothpick so you don't overcolor it, which can result in a very mushy type of texture. If not, just, yeah, use some Sharpie, use some markers you have lying around. No need to run out and buy new markers if you don't want to. I'm rolling the pupils into some nice round shapes. I'm not stressing it to be too perfect. So even if they have slightly different shapes and sizes, that's totally okay. We're going for a monster, not for Miss Universe here. So that's all good. Alrighty, and just gently pat it on top of your eyeballs. And next up, we are deciding where we want them to be. I want them to be fairly close to the hole. So I'm just placing them gently on the still wet glaze. And I want them to be very close to each other. This is just how I want it to be. You can place them wherever you like. All right, now it needs to dry. As you remember, our cute little monster has a big bar of chocolate falling out of his mouth. I'm using the Gourmet Clay by Aura Clay, which is my brand, to create this very realistic looking chocolate bar. The reason I have decided to take the gourmet clay is very simple. I was too lazy to color foam clay into the desired chocolate hue. And also the gourmet clay in chocolate is specifically made to look like chocolate dough or even like a chocolate bar. It has a special type of texture inside, hollow resin bodies, which will give it a firmer, how would I say, a firmer texture, a firmer shape. I understand that not everybody has access to my clay, which is all right. Just don't stress. Take a piece of foam clay and just color it brown. That will also do the trick. No need to panic. Okay, so I have squeezed my piece of chocolate into a somewhat rectangular shape with some rulers. And next up, I will go ahead and add the characteristic grid pattern. Just make sure you have your shape down as densely packed as you can, because once you start adding the grid pattern, it will mess a bit with the rectangular shape, but we will fix it, so don't sweat. Take a needle for the grid pattern. So what we're doing here is just sectioning the bar into a grid pattern by gently pressing the needle into the still soft clay. And as I said before, you can see that the rectangular shape is starting to wobble a little bit. And yeah, theoretically or practically, actually, you can still go back in once you have your grid pattern down and squish it from the sides. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, a credit card works miracles. When you need to make sharp lines and straight edges, an old discarded credit card will do wonders. Or as I'm doing here, I'm using my rulers. They're also straight, to just squish it gently back into shape. Our little monster was mid-eating when he got spooked, so I decided to use a tool to cut out a bite mark into the chocolate bar. I'm not sure what this type of tool is called, but basically it has a spoon-shaped ending, if that makes sense. So it helps me to just carve out those pieces of chocolate that he has bitten off. And if you don't have that, maybe you can try to cut it out with scissors or maybe a box cutter, something with which you can just form that specific shape. Yeah. And we're placing it onto our donut, and he's basically almost done. All we have to do is wait 24 hours for it to dry fully. Once your donut is dry, you can go ahead and glaze him. Here I'm using the Puttyco Super Gloss Varnish. I will link it down below, also with alternatives, because I do understand that depending on where you're from, it can be very difficult to purchase this Japanese varnish, but there are alternatives and I will make sure to list them. In one of my prior videos, I have actually gone through an extensive testing of different clay varnishes on foam clay. So I will also link that video down below or add it to a description box, because yeah, it will give you more options, especially if you're not in Japan or if you're not in the United States, where you can somewhat easily purchase the super gloss. And it also has some incredibly budget-friendly options. All right, so the glazing is quite self-explanatory. I took a flat brush and I'm basically just dipping it into my varnish, which I have in a shallow dish next to me. And I'm just running it over the foam clay monster. It's quite easy. Once you're done with that, you should also let it dry for a few hours just to be completely sure that nothing gets distorted once you add your metal findings or do whatever you want to do with it. Here's our little creepy dude. I have inserted an eye pin into him because I want to transform it into a pendant. I don't know what this part is called. I will link it down below, but I'm kind of at a loss for what this thing is called. But it's like a metal loop that you can open up with your pliers to slink the eye pin into it. And then you will have to close it again with your pliers. And you have a pendant. Ta-da! You can make various things with it. You can either turn it into a keychain, or you can put it on a necklace to have it as a cute, fun little donut, kawaii dessert jewelry item. It's up to you. You can also actually stick a magnet to the back of the donut, and then you have a fun, cute little fridge magnet. Or you can just have it sitting on your desk, making you happy whenever you look at it. The choice is yours. Well, there you have it. Fun, fast, cute little project. If you enjoyed it, make sure to check out my other videos. I'm intending to upload even more Halloween kawaii inspired tutorials for jewelry, accessories like keychains. And yeah, I hope to see you very soon. Bye!